This guy made $60,000 in a single month without owning a business, product, or service.
My earnings just kind of went over the roof. I mean, I've gone from 30K a month to like 60K a month.
He came from the corporate world and talks about how he finally feels in control of his life.
As a corporate, I think life was happening to me. And as a closer, I'm making things happen for myself. You kind of feel more like you're just going through the motion, right? When you're working corporate.
All that coming up in today's episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast.
First of all, I'm here with Tan. Tan, how's the week going so far?
It's been amazing, man. Very blessed. Great to be here. Thank you for having me, Aaron.
Amazing. So I'm excited to have this conversation. I think there's a ton of things that you were even talking about that's really resonated with me and just like my own like remote closing journey. Before we go too deep into the remote closing stuff and how you found us and like the traveling lifestyle and your 10-month-old and all that stuff, let's rewind the clocks a little bit. And you said, I think you were talking to right before, is you've been doing this closing stuff for like 4 or 5 years. So take us back to even before that time, before you even knew what sales was. Like, what were you doing before all of that?
Yeah. So I was actually doing sales before sales, but yeah, I was still working on more of a corporate B2B environment. Nothing as interesting as today, where you speak to like households, you speak to people. It was more about like, I worked for a big company called Oracle. I mean, probably some of us know about
Yeah.
it. A very mundane kind of existence where, you probably like get hidden behind the 120,000 employees. Yeah, you get to travel around the world, but you hardly really ever get to touch people. And yeah, I was selling anything from Oracle Linux solutions to like, big program suites. But then, it was not one of those things where, you could be proud of like daily achievements. It was more of like a monthly, bi-monthly, sometimes, semi-yearly gains, productivity, deal closes. But yes, I am guilty of being happily in sales. So long ago, I think I found solace in a place where I believe you feel valuable, you feel useful. So yes, I have been over 18 years, but yes, in a very B2B environment, long product cycles, long sales cycles, and never really feeling that you're, as close to the actual sale and then, not really knowing what's come after. So yeah, that's been my history.
Yeah. So touching on that part, because I think that's really important. And, unless, I think a lot of newer salespeople, they don't really like understand that portion of it. Cause you have, like you said, 18 years of experience of like seeing it done that way, right? In a very corporate world and, conglomerate companies, right? Hundreds, thousands of employees. Like what's been like the switch for you and like your ability to sell and maybe like your confidence in selling from the corporate world into what you're selling now?
Yeah, I mean, most importantly, back in the days, we didn't even think about scripts. We didn't think about, a way of, really doing discovery. I mean, everything from really understanding a problem, listening skills, to actually getting into any kind of like a like a pitch mode, has been really the true meaning of the word sales, right? I mean, back in the days, it was more like almost like telephone sales, right? Like, I mean, a company like Oracle, you pretty much cover a region, a scope, and then mostly people come to you. And generally, unless you're really, really, doing cold calling, you don't really, at the end of the day, like get to the real bottom line of what's going on. It's more like, company XYZ, has been looking for something, their tenders, their specific requirements, and you just kind of pitch in with features and X's and Y's, right? This is different here. This here, and by the way, I want to focus on a few years before what I'm doing right now. So I was in a lower ticket space. I went into affiliate marketing, which is by part of the way, part of passive income and the things I talk, in my own channels. Most importantly, it's all about financial freedom, which is very hard when you're working for a company. But yes, part of this B2C experience is actually to help take somebody from A to B. And that's, I think, a very important part of sale, right? Like to help somebody transition, whether it's their mindset, whether it's in helping them reach somewhere, feel some way and get them to attainable results. So I went from like a coaching program, more of like a, done for you affiliate program to like bigger ticket. But anyway, coming back to what you asked me, B2B sales has been more of like just responsive sales, whereas today it's more about like really understanding what a problem, what a person is going through, and then taking them through that whole sales journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with the affiliate marketing stuff, you were doing affiliate marketing, or you selling like a lower ticket product, or both?
Actually, I went in early as a early adopter, and I was actually part of the client base, and that's when I it really took to me that, if I can do this so well, and by the way, this is not a multi-level marketing scheme or anything like that. It was just knowing that one of the, the owners in the business was really somebody I looked up to, and then obviously, once I saw that it was really working for me, it became much easier, like, be out there and talk about it, and really, and that's really when I was still understanding what sales was all about. So it was, I mean, just my, the confidence and the approach and how it was helping me just came over and helped me be a top closer. But then, as I said, right, like then came also understanding that, sales is not only just that energy and that drive and the confidence, but it's also like the art, which obviously then was my biggest gift, because I had, made some good earnings, which I could then invest in a course like extension. Again, that was probably the pivotal part of my career. I'm sure we're going to touch base on that later. But yes, that is the long version of the question you asked, which is I went in from like a client into a kind of like a sales position, and then being a top closer. And then yes, I was selling like done for you affiliate courses and also masterminds. These masterminds were helping people just kind of hit passive income goals, manifestation, meditation. So it was like kind of like a all-round 2-day experience in Miami. So yeah, that's been what I've been doing about 3 years back. My first exposure into, let's say ticket closing or any kind of B2C from home, wherever you live in this world.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you touched on that, because I think that's a huge maybe not even bottleneck, like a question that people ask is like when they're in the high ticket space or they're just starting out, they're like, what should I sell? Right? They're like, what offer should I jump into? And I think you touch on something that I'm a huge proponent of jumping in and selling a product that like you're confident in, that you've like, more importantly, like if you've done it yourself, I think that's really powerful, because it gives you like that conviction on the sales calls, right? Like if you haven't done something yourself, like a specific course or a program or whatever, and you're trying to sell it, it just becomes really, really difficult because like you haven't done it yourself. So that's a huge thing I recommend. And then also, to add on to that is if you're selling something where you have seen the transformation yourself, maybe not even necessarily through that specific program, but more of like the model. So what I mean by that is, I was obviously, fortunate enough to meet Cole a couple of years ago. And, he reached out to me and knew that I was doing, some sales stuff, had my own agency, and he reached out and he's like, hey, do you want to like help me build this idea? And I was like, sure. And, I was doing appointment setting and some closing, and it was like, I was bought in on the method of closing. Right. And it also got me out of like, I was running an agency, I was burnt out, wasn't able to spend time with my family. So it's like, I was like my own best case study to sell. Right. So when I would get on conversations with people and sell the idea of remote closing, it's like, I had the conviction, the confidence, and like, you feel that, right? It's the conviction that you have when you're selling something that you've done is very different than like learning about a specific product. So piece of advice for anyone that's a little bit confused is like, start with something that like maybe you've overcome yourself, and then join a program that might offer, a similar solution.
And if I can just have like one word there,
Please.
I definitely feel that is like gold out there. Probably I didn't focus on it too much, but yes, the part of why this has been so good for me is because initially, I really went into a full space. I mean, just to kind of get to really where I started, I went into like a space where I did a meditational fast. I went into a mental fast. So I really imbibed all the things that I was then in future helping others transform into. And that's also part of my, my message here for people is like, transformation is really a very deep thing, right? I mean, it's not really 5 or 6 things that you here in a video or whatever, even though I'm sure this video can be a part of like helping somebody transform, but then it really goes deep into like, changing the way you work, the way you, program yourselves in the mind, nodes are wired and stuff like that. So a lot of those things, because I imbibed them, it became just so much easier. And I was living it, right? And I was living it, and that kind of made it so much easier. I'm not saying the sales reps have to do that, but if they do it, it's just gold, because then it's not
The cheat
anymore of
code.
like, yeah, exactly. And when you believe in it, and again, part of this is to believe in it so much that it's almost true. And when you know it's true, then it's just much easier to be on a call and helping others transform. Even though I do believe that, I'm sure if you spoke to Cole, he would say that even if you didn't have that, the best salespeople around the world would still do their magic. But yes, it definitely helps, So everybody needs a handicap, right? So this
Mhm.
is one great nugget here from Aaron. So if you do need one handicap to be really good and have a few extra points before even starting a sales career, just get into the kind of mindset of, that product, and, maybe try that product, and then you just made yourself like your life much easier there.
Exactly. So
Absolutely.
a couple other things that you mentioned. So I think being that you've been in the sales space for so long, what are some of the things that you really, I know you mentioned some of them, but I guess what I'm trying to get from this is if there's there's an already existing salesperson that's listening to this, right? And they're in corporate sales, or, they're already doing something in a similar situation that you were in. What would you maybe give to them as a piece of advice to like get over the hump of being like, yo, just like ditch corporate and do this instead? Like, what would you say to that person?
Well, I mean, it comes down to your whys, right? I mean, some people, they're doing so well in their corporate lives that they probably don't see really what's going on. But like, I don't think corporate ladders are easy to climb. Also, it's not a space where you feel very fulfilled, and you're still working for somebody else, right? So I guess it's down to like really soul searching, and coming down to like the basics. For me, as I said, right, like I could probably still be happy in the Oracle world and still make money without having to do that much hard work, because you obviously look into base pay and all that kind of stuff. But like the lifestyle, which I'm hoping we're going to touch on later, which is to like just feel free, feel you can be anywhere in the world, feel that you're actually helping others, you're inspiring others. I don't think the corporate jobs really do that. At certain points, you can be part of nice programs, and you can do some social welfare. Corporates are really great at that. But eventually, and again, it's great for work and life balance. But if you're one of, if somebody here who's listening to this wants to achieve like the biggest pinnacle of their career, and they want to reach seven figures, as I said again, unless they really have a have a real drive and a passion, it's not going to just be that easy. And again, maybe you'll even get there in the sales corporate career, but it would not be in the same fashion, which is to live your life, you know, plan your day, take days off, probably even go off to a vacation, tell your, co-owner or business owner that you're just, going to take a couple of calls in a day. Corporates don't work like that. Now, before COVID, this was much different, right? Because before COVID, like it was so hard to even like get a few days off. But now obviously it's different, right? You can work from home and all that jazz. I still think, because I worked a year and a half at my corporate before transitioning off. And by the way, this is a secret here, but I was to do both. So I've had a taste. It's great stories that I would go off my
Yeah.
business trips and be in these big conferences with like, big hordes of stuff. And then I would be waiting for them to finish so I could actually get home or to my hotel and do
Yeah.
cold closing. And then, trust me, I was more passionate about the closing part. I was in taxis closing people. And when I say close, I really mean that I was helping them, transition.
Mhm.
And that's been the most exciting part. But anyway, coming back and to the point is that, I mean, you really have to understand the bigger dreams, financial freedom, passive income, all those things are so much harder when you're in corporate life, because you're working and ticking clocks. As soon as you start doing something like this, you have way much more time to like, chalk your career, like chalk your life out, see what you really want, have those bigger conversations with your spouse, really, really, let me just say this. I know I'm blabbering here. Um, as a corporate, I think life was happening to me. And as a closer, and what I'm doing today, I'm making things happen for myself. That's just saying things in a nutshell. You kind of feel more like you're just, you know, just going through the motion, right? When you're working corporate. Whereas now I believe I'm pretty much, structuring and shaping my future, which is obviously so much more exciting. I'm sure the people here who've already taken a few risks would understand. So that's the big difference.
Mm-hmm. Huge takeaway. If I can just like take all of that and never apologize for talking, because I think it's that's what makes us good closers, like being able to encompass our experiences and especially for people that listen to this, like I think they want to hear that, right? Like especially like a salesperson that's I'm sure you probably felt you're probably making good money and you're safe, but it's like at a certain point and with people that are struggling financially or maybe not making as much as they want to or need to, it's hard to tell them and go back to that idea of like money doesn't buy happiness, but there is a ceiling, right? There's only so much that money can buy, as cliche as it sounds. But back to what you say is like the thing that I take from that is just control, right? Having control of your life, control of your finances, control of your time, control of like, not having to ask to go to your kid's baseball game, right? Not having to ask like, hey, is it okay if I take off, 3 hours today to like my kid's sick? It's like, do you have sick days? It's like, it's just the little things that the money is able to provide you, right? And I think that's a big takeaway from what you just said. So I guess what was your transition, we'll say, or like what was like because I know you were talking about the affiliate marketing stuff. I guess what was your transition from the affiliate marketing to more of like, I guess, how'd you find us? Like where did that kind of culminate?
So this is a good one. And this is again could be diluted because we're just talking about reaching the bigger goals. So even though I must say that I'm so blessed that I went in from corporate space into the closing space and where I was just like selling, high ticket offers. But here's the thing, the high ticket went into a huge kind of a perspective because I thought I was selling high ticket, but then I realized I was nowhere in the spectrum of what ticket sizes. So this is again going to be probably the most interesting part of this conversation because part of the reason I'm here is because I feel last year was really when I understood what calibration is. So, I was obviously doing really well. I was selling somewhere amount of, about a amount of tickets every day or products or sales. And I used to always be hard on myself. I was really coming down to like the very reason why I don't want to have people, grinding, because I started even grinding in this closing position because it was all became like, oh, how many more sales can I do? Then I was like, wait a minute, I just this is really good to have those few days off, and I guess those were times when I was again, keeping my own plans, but I was my 40th birthday. I mean, I just have flashbacks, some really good time that I had. And I started realizing that even though I was very blessed to be in this space and now have all this freedom and financial security, I was still not hitting the next level. And this is where I believe I don't know who I met or who I spoke to, or if I was watching a video, but I was like, I met somebody who said to me, you can either change your goals or you can change the trajectory towards your goals. And I was almost about to do the former, which was to change my goals because I was like, I'm not getting there with this. So I was selling ticket offers of like anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000. And I thought the highest things about myself because I had days when I would sell even like 10 tickets and, I'd have like a month where I would make 20K, 25K. But this is obviously like, you have to know, guys, like how many tickets you have to sell or how many offers you need to sell in a day to be able to make 25K when you have like a 1 to 5K kind of a, average ticket size, right? So I, even though I'm actually helping people understand how good this space is, I was getting in that place where you feel like, oh my God, I am getting not burnt out, but I am getting into that place where like I cannot make more sales in a day unless I became like 10 times better. And that's when I was like, I'll do two things. I'll still try to get better at this game because I need to now talk to people, meet people, and learn from the masters. But I also need to like do something which is a bit more smarter, which is to see like what's going on in the space, you know? I mean, if I'm selling a 5K offer and the other selling a 30 to 50K offer, maybe they're putting the same efforts. So that was the most pivotal part of my time, where I realized two things: is that, you know, no matter how good you think you are, you know, you really, you know, a work in progress, and so many people better than you. And to ignore that, and then again, two people came to mind: Cole Gordon, if I can say that, and Jeremy Miner, right? And that's when I can say I was meeting a lot of people, I was earning good money, and I could afford any kind of a high ticket, well, coaching program. I mean, sales coaching program. And this is also kind of a curious story, but I had two sales closers for selling me either Extension or Jeremy Miner's seventh level academy. And it's funny, I mean, I got into these calls, and it just so happened that the person who was pitching me Extension was just way more relatable, did a much better discovery, and he really understood what my pain points is. And I'm thankful, because eventually I've made my life, you know, having touched, you know, Extension and their leaders, Brian, you know, Stephen, yourself, you know, and it's just been so good that I believe it all comes down to people, right? Sales is between people. But anyways, long story short, you know, I decided two things. One is I'm going to increase my ticket offer, you know, increase my ticket size, if possibly to like 10x. And then I'll obviously, you know, get trained by, you know, people who've done this. And that's how I came here. I got into, you know, a 60K offer, was 25 to 60K. So that would be an average size of 30K. It was a game changer. And obviously with that, I had to still learn, you know, and keep doing, you know, calling practice, understanding how funnels work. So, you know, I've been blessed to not only just take this from a closer perspective, but also understand how a business, how an offer runs, you know, what are the pain points of actually running a business, you know, what are the sides to it. So yeah, I've been really blessed, and this has only happened because I was able to like get into really like a company, you know, where I understood there are so many facets, so many angles of looking at things, so many people. So yeah, for all those reasons, and I'm not doing any kind of marketing, nobody's forced me to be on this call here. I can just like be so grateful that to be able to understand what sales really is and where it kind of falls in terms of like, you know, pieces together, even things like fulfillment, you know, how that goes together, marketing, which is something that I never really got into. Today I know the deeper meaning of like, you know, marketing budget, spend, you know, all that, you know, yeah. So yeah, very grateful to that transition that happened late or early 22 rather. So I was in Extension from 22 onwards, and you know, that's really been the, yeah, the really, really changing, life-changing moment for me.
Nice. Yeah, there's a quote that comes to mind with that, and it's, you know, one of the things that Cole talks about a lot is the opportunity vehicle, right? And what that means is, because a lot of what you were talking about is, you know, you're at the, you know, high ticket offer, and the reason I want to like really highlight this is, you know, it's like the saying of like, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with, or it's like you only really know the information that you're surrounded by. So, you know, for example, with you, when you were selling, you know, 1 to 5,000, is you were in that realm of like, oh yeah, like this is high ticket. And I think it also comes like with your own personal development of like,
Right.
if you assume $1,000 to $5,000 to be a lot of money, then
Yes.
obviously your mindset going into that and selling it is going to be very different. So I think, you know, anyone that's listening to this, especially when you said, and I see this comment on YouTube and, you know, social media and stuff like that, when I talk about offers ranging from, you know, 20,000 to 50,000, $100,000 offers, is people automatically assume that to be a scam because they just aren't surrounded by the information to understand that that is something that is possible. So anyone that's listening, is I want to tell you that, like, yeah, you know, a high ticket, like I really don't consider anything high ticket under like $4,000, right? Like 4,000 and up is like what we usually consider to be high ticket. But, you know, when we're talking about, back to the quote, is well, Cole talks about it. It's a Warren Buffett quote, and it goes, it's not how hard that you row, but it's more important the boat that you're in. So, you know, like you said, and you know, you could probably attest to this, is you probably didn't have to become like, to go from selling a $1,000 offer to a $30,000 offer. You didn't need to get 30,000 or 30 times better, right? You maybe didn't even have to get better at all. Like maybe, selling those prospects are a little bit different, but it's because you were in a faster boat.
Oh, I'm going to say this. It's going to be controversial, but I believe actually as the ticket size goes up, it becomes easier. The sale becomes
I agree.
easier, and
Yeah.
that's the funny part, right? Because as you go into higher ticket offers, you start realizing that obviously there's so many things that come, into the picture. You're talking to people that are way more better funnel. They are into a place where they are spending that kind of money. So I believe, and this is again, this invites a lot of opinion and probably like argument sake, but I believe the higher ticket you go, especially when you go from those 1 to 5K to like 30K, it actually becomes easier because the sale is as, let's just say, complex or easy as it was before, but now it's obviously somebody who's way more committed because they have come into that space where they're even thinking of spending that kind of money. Yeah, for me, that was the biggest game changer, which obviously I wouldn't have been able to know if I had not been here, because I would have led my life thinking, oh, 30K is like, people coming to the call like shivering and not wanting to spend. And most
Yeah.
importantly, like the first stigma was like, oh, people don't buy in the first call, people don't buy, on Zoom. I've done it all. I'm not going to be arrogant about it, Aaron, but it's all possible. People buying on the first call, people not even getting into the triage, sometimes missing a triage call and still coming onto a Zoom, missing the Zoom and still coming in, buying because they just have to write off some money, all that kind of jazz. And,
Yeah.
the only thing, and this is really true, and that's why I think manifestation was important, which was part of the process why I moved over to high ticket closing, is really the only thing that's stopping you in your life is your mind. And you create your own reality. And as a closer, you don't want to sabotage yourself thinking this is how it goes, this is how the customer feels. You don't know how a customer feels.
Mm.
And one of the biggest things that I also want to touch today, if not on the later segments, is like part of the process when you're a salesperson, you like get bogged down by results of your clients. That is also like self-sabotaging, because eventually you can't hold yourself responsible as a sales rep as to like what goes on the fulfillment side or
Mm.
how a particular client imbibes a certain program. And most people who do that, put a dagger up their foot, which is something that I think most of us who are in our sales careers have done. Sometimes done a little bit, sometimes more, sometimes come out of it. But yes, extension and talking to people like, like Brian and the leads help me understand that you got to keep yourself really, away from the noise, because what you're really doing is helping somebody transition in that period. How they imbibe it, how it works for them is obviously a part that they have to play in it. And obviously, some of it lies on the fulfillment, which obviously you need to be completely detached from. Most sales reps who are good people feel they are morally responsible for where the clients are going, but obviously there's a very thin line, right, between really what you feel responsible for. But anyway, those are the few takeaways that I had in this last 2 years, which is, if you want to get better at your sales, you got to change the way you think, change the way you program yourself. Don't have any kind of limiting beliefs that's going to stop you from becoming the better sales closer you want to be in life.
Yeah, we usually don't talk a lot. I mean, we do talk a lot about like limiting beliefs and opportunity and stuff, but I just think back to what you said, it's just it's so important. I think I come off, kind of because I'll jump into our the RCA group, and I'll do some mock calls sometimes with people, and I'll kind of jump on and I'll role play, just to offer some coaching and stuff like that. And I'd say 99% of those calls turn into like a therapy session almost, which is like
Right.
a lot of times what sales is, and just like helping people and like basically being their number one fan, right? Helping them understand that it's just, I think for me, because I've seen, like I've put in the work on like so many different things, and because I've like, this isn't to like make myself sound amazing, but I think the only reason I've been able to see success in multiple aspects of life is because I just made the decision that I was going to see success. Right. And
Right.
the reason that I made that decision is because I'd had other opportunities that had come up in my life where I'd seen that work and taking action equals result. So if you can just do those two things, and you offered a lot of a lot of your own personal experiences and stuff too, and just like manifestation, right? Like understanding that if you just, there's the opportunities there, right? There's companies that need setters and closers. There's a lot of companies that need setters and closers. So if you can just like buckle down and really learn the skill set, it's all about just taking the action. Like, as cliche as that sounds, right? I do want to, because obviously I want to talk about, your successes and the lifestyle you've been able to build, because I think that's like a huge reason why people want to build their own business, start remote closing, whatever it is. We've talked a lot about like the good, right? Up to this point. Can you pinpoint any like pivotal like learning lessons or like things you had to learn like the hard way, or just anything that you can point back to of like, this was like a learning lesson and I'm glad that this happened?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's so many. As I said, one of those things back in the days was, when you're just too hard on yourself just because you feel like it's you, or you're going through a rough patch. So obviously, like thinking about things and being overcritical doesn't really help in this space. Also, something that I learned in extension is, how many days you need to take off as a sales closer before you kind of like get too burnt. So those are the things that I learned over the period of time that I was, high ticket closing or closing in the space is, really you can't be too hard on yourself. It's just sales is really a reflection of how you're feeling. So eventually if you can just feel good and, again, coming back to those affirmations, coming back to how you're feeling, that can be like a game changer. And then some of the things that I realized was, yeah, some other pieces need to work as well, even though you do want to say as a closer, everything really can be something that you can control, but there are some things that obviously marketing controls, ad spends, sometimes it's even, how things are going. There are days in the year where the US American public is just busy doing other things. So, you can't be too hard on yourself, right? Also the biggest learning curve, and this is again, not probably the best reason to like help somebody transition if they're hearing this podcast. But yes, there have been months, even when I'm living this biggest life, where I've not made any sales because ads completely stopped. I was going through my, baby being born. So, in all this, it would be completely like wrong to not highlight that there are some low points. One of my biggest low point, even though it was really a high point personally, was the birth of my son last February. And that was the only month where I don't think I made any or even a dime. But that's the best part about this, right? Because I had been earning such good money that it doesn't even matter. And I'm sure we'll touch on that. But yes, learning curve, like don't be too hard on yourself. Just understand that, sales is just a process of feeling, reaffirming how good how good you're feeling about yourself. Give yourself those breaks and those times to like kind of put yourself, out there to feel like, hey, what can I really do? And it's the ego's perspective. Most people don't have that or cannot have that because they're in their daily lives and living that. So sometimes you really have to take yourself away from that. And again, a lot of people are in offers where they're being macromanaged and all that kind of stuff. You have to be stronger than that. Obviously, this can go long. I think finding an offer is probably the hardest thing. So, some people are just want to jump and dive. And again, in the beginning, I'm going to encourage people in this podcast to just make their moves. But as you go along, you have to be very, you really know what you want, right? To be able to get there. That's again, part of the manifestation, to be clear about what you want. But yeah, these are the learning curves, and there are going to be low points, but once you then rise from those low points, like I don't know how to explain how good that feeling is, to have like a 50K month after like a month where you didn't make any money, just helps you understand like, why am I in this space, because, this takes a couple of weeks to turn the tide, and yeah, you just can't be too hard on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, we talk about a lot too, is like, you can't experience the highs without the lows, right? Like if you were just living on a high all the time, is you can't really appreciate it. Again, it's hard to understand that if you've never like seen that. But when you do hit that point, it feels so much better when you like come from a much lower point and you do hit the top. So speaking of the top, obviously, you came through the program and you took massive action. Actually, before we get to that point, because we haven't talked much about like, you being in the program, which is fine. Like, I think the majority of this I want to make about you. But I guess when you came to the program, and started working with us, like what were some of like the shifts that you made or like the action that you took that allowed you to like build the mindset that you have now, and then, find the offer that you're on, that you've been able to create success with?
That's a great question. So mindset wise, I'd already made some of these big moves before I'd come to Extension, but it definitely just kind of affirmed my beliefs even more because I used to talk to people, meet. But the biggest key takeaways were just like understanding how other closers work, feel good when you see other closers also talking about their pain points, just feeling part of this wave of like people who are, becoming financially free and traveling the world, living their dreams. That is just so refreshing. And most importantly, like understanding like the minor points, like how you come across in terms of tonality, in terms of like, really understanding how you came across on a certain call reviews. Like those are the reasons why I would say Extension was like a game changer for me. The mindset, of course, right? Because obviously that's something that I already started changing a lot, which obviously helped me get into Extension. But really getting into Extension was to understand like you can be the best, person who does all the affirmations, mindset, all that. It's still not going to help you be the best closer, because closing is about proper skills, empathy, understanding, you need a structure to whatever you're doing. There has to be a method behind the madness. And that's why I would like really applaud, because, I got into the really technical realms of like how you can actually be also a great closer, how to organize your day, how to do follow-ups, how to even write text messages, how to not come across as somebody who's too salesy on a text message or a call. These are things. And again, I feel the golden nuggets of like being a part of Extension is like just knowing and having, even though, you go through your day and you do your thing, but just in case you have those few situations where you're like, shit, somebody didn't come to a call, or, just kind of ghosted me, or, is acting weird. I mean, just to have somebody to speak to, analyze what you could do better is really what I think Extension did for me. But yeah, that's part of also the mindset, right? But yes, some of that hardcore mindset, changes I'd already started having before, but Extension was like, okay, you gotta, probably have a better mindset, but you gotta also now start really realizing there are like 1 million, closers out there who are all wanting to get better every day. You can just be in your own space and think that something great gonna happen to you, or no, you go and learn from the people who've done it, start realizing there are people who are way better than you, and start being even more humble about it, and just as you say, right, you surround yourself again, with the best people in the world, and before you know, you're doing way better. And that's really what happened to me. I don't know what happened. I don't think I just changed, but it just, when you're around people who are so good, and who are humble, who are closing like crazy, who are still coming into these calls being self-critical, it's just an eye-opener. And it's not in any way like discouraging, because you sometimes feel shit, there are so many good people, but then you also feel like, wow, if he can do it, or if she can do it, I can do it as well. And that was really great. And also seeing like some really like high performance individuals, like I don't want to name only a few, but
Yeah.
some great people in Extension, people who are leading these calls, like everybody from people like Matei Ames, people who are just people who are in my batch, and how we're being trained, just so affirmative, so consoling, so good at what they do, and just knowing their craft. And that's really what I believe salespeople should understand, that it's not just your smile and your listening skills, or even how good you approach life and your positive attitude, that's going to make you the best salesperson. It's also learning from the best, and kind of like just going about it as like an art, as a skill, and honing that skill, and really practicing daily, and and getting better at it. So the more exposure you can get, the better it is. And there's no way you can get better exposure than being part of a network where they kind of help you come out of your comfort zone, like really getting your calls reviewed, really coming on, talking about, what's going on, even sharing your wins, like, daily or weekly. Some people don't even know what they've done well in the day, and they haven't gone through that, right? So once you do realize what's been going good in the day, you start obviously thinking different, you start attracting different vibrations. So yeah, for all that reason, I'm very thankful and grateful to Extension.
Yeah. So I guess on that, which is like a perfect segue, talk about just like some of your biggest wins. Like, obviously we talked about it before, you're able to travel the world. You just moved to, different part of your different country, really. So let's just give some, like, what is like your record month? Like, just kind of talk on some of your
Yeah.
biggest wins.
Yeah, so this year, the offer I'm with had like, well, this year, I'm so sorry, it's 2023, the last year, the year that has passed by, 2023, has been a great year where the offer they introduced some challenges. So that's also really exciting when you have like some extra commissions that can come your way. From about May onwards, which is obviously a couple of months after my baby was born, I hit that challenge percentage and number every month. And obviously my earnings just kind of went over the roof. I mean, I've gone from 30K a month to like 60K a month. And again, like I was making 10, 15K and still feeling great about my life. I never thought last year in 2021 or even during the extension time that I would hit 50, 60K. So thanks to, you know, just the year that I had, the people that I met, the things that I learned on the way, the great marketing budgets, also these challenges that were out there. But yes, I definitely have been killing it since March, April. I told you February I had no sales. Thanks to a lot of things, but probably also me. But yeah, it's one of my biggest wins is also like, I used to always tell people, make I had a board, back in my other setup. I used to have a board. I'm gonna get the board again because it really helps. So just to put my manifested goals on the board, and I had the 10K a day thing. And even though I wouldn't say I've had a 10K day every day, but there were days when I made 10K days.
Nice. Let's
And
go.
this is what I feel so great about that. It was just not a number. Sometimes you start looking and start encouraging people and start understanding how lame these figures are, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna make 10K a day. But even though you couldn't hit it every day of the week or the month, the fact that you've hit it on a few days just feels like, you're not just like, just BSing here. It is a reality that people make that kind of money. Obviously, you should be having more of those days, but I didn't feel like that's going to be a reality so soon. But that's the thing, right? Yeah, it's all possible in this life, and actually sooner than you think. It shall come to you. Some people actually, as I said, self-sabotage themselves to thinking it's going to be way later, and you're going to have to work yourself up to it. I wouldn't say I was in my top game. I would definitely say I was in a good game. I was in a good space, but I could have done more. So, I was probably selling like what, 30 tickets in a month. That helped me to those numbers. If I had sold 50, like I would have been in a ridiculous
Yeah.
space here. So the funny part is when you have those kind of days and weeks and months, you start realizing if I was a bit better than I was, if I did my follow-up. So that's why I keep saying, and that's why if I'm here, I think like it's unthinkable what you can achieve in this space. Unthinkable. Because I made these ridiculous numbers, even though I know I was not my best. I was not doing my best follow-ups. I was probably even taking a little bit of slack of like just being comfortable because I know I was making good money. If I had not been like that and I had been like, no way, let's just make bank, I would have probably even 3 times made that company. And again, the numbers are boggling. So I guess one of the other things that I would say is like, don't let numbers, and this is what I learned from Brian, by the way. Brian's been a big, motivation and inspiration for me. So like numbers shouldn't intimidate you, or you can't feel great just because of the numbers. You have to feel good about the process. So at some point, the money that you earn as a closer just has to be like, yeah, whatever, because there's going to be a tomorrow and there might be a slump or whatever. So it's really the process but anyway, I know the question was about my big wins. Big wins has been Again, helping others get better in my offer. So helping the junior closers come into that space, helping them with the mindset, having my biggest month in the year, having the biggest year so far, thinking about how I'm going to actually expense all this, and how I'm going to actually find the best accountant in the world to actually be able to continue
Yeah, that's the
doing
next
this.
hard part.
Those have been my self-realizations, that you have to really worry about all those things, because as you start getting in the higher ticket space, you start have to worry about where the income's going, how you're spreading it out, how you're accounting for it, get yourself a good CPA. But anyway, those are things, aspects for another conversation. But yes, the biggest takeaway and the biggest win has been, hey, we're here. The Millionaire Club is not just what people talk about and think about. It's just so much achievable. I think being a high ticket closer, you're really like knocking on that Millionaire Club all the time. The 10K, 15, 20K, I'm not going to be arrogant about it. I'm sure it takes time, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm going to make 10K. But once you start selling a 30, 50K offer, and the ad spends are good, and you're feeling good, you're getting better at what you do, really 50 to 100K months is a reality. It's not even something. I mean, if you can do the maths, Aaron, it's literally lame. I did that with my co-founders, and it's crazy. So the message that I'm trying to bring across here is, when things are doing too well, don't take it too seriously. And when things are not doing so well, or when things are not going so well, don't be too hard on yourself. And at the end of the day, just realize that even when you're at your A game, there's 10 things that you can do better. So that's the hardest thing as a salesperson, to not feel like, oh my God, I've done enough. This is great. Everything is good, because you're kind of like letting money on the table. And that's my realization, like 8 months on here. What I could have done in those months, if I had spent a bit more time on follow-ups, done a few things better, heard a few more of my call reviews, those kind of stuff. But again, difficult to do everything when you're having a great month.
Yeah. Well, dude, first of all, I just wanted to say I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this stuff. We'll definitely have to get you back on a follow-up interview, because I have a lot more questions, but we try to keep these to about an hour or so. I do want you to last thing that if you can give as like a piece of advice, I'm going to do a quick like little outro, and then I want you to think of like the biggest like takeaway, golden nugget, something that you want someone to take away from this interview. So think about that really quickly, and I'll do this outro super quick. So for those of you that are listening up to this point, you're probably a little bit interested in what remote closing is, and being able to, potentially live the lifestyle of, Tan, and also, a ton of the other people that we talk about. So if you want to learn more about remote closing, what it is, kind of more breakdown of the process, down in the description of, on YouTube, as well as the podcast app, there's a link that's going to bring you over to a video. It's a masterclass video put together about 30 minutes long, and it'll break down beginning to end, not only what remote closing is, how you can find remote closing jobs, a little bit around the process, how to reach out to companies, like pretty much beginning to end. You can take the information from that video, implement if you want to. At the end of that video as well, we do give an option to have a conversation either with myself or someone from our team to see how we could potentially help you make that journey a little bit faster. So no obligation to do that, but the training, you can literally, I would grab, notebook and a pen and take down some notes, because I think it'll be a lot of good stuff for you. So that being said, first link down in the description. Tan, what you got?
Well, what I'm going to say this call is, 5 years back, dreams were small. One of the biggest takeaways I want to have anybody take from this call is like, start dreaming bigger, looking at your life from an ego's perspective, and really understanding what your whys are and why you want to do, what you want to do. That is something that helped me understand. And again, if you can, try to get the best help that you possibly can in whichever space you are in. Mentorship is too underrated. And most importantly, like traveling the world, reaching your dreams, living your best life is not just things that you watch on an Instagram channel and, click through videos. It's a reality. And actually, we're the part of this generation that's causing this huge wave out there for people to then see and imbibe. So just understand that whatever you're doing is so personal to you. but it's also changing so many other people's lives who are maybe watching you, maybe going to follow you, maybe going to see a YouTube live or a rewatch. But yes, somewhere down the line, somebody's, and a lot of people are being touched by this. And you know, you never know how many more people you can reach. So that has to be the reason why we have to, you know, be morally obligated to be the best version of ourselves so we can help others transform. Like every day I meet so many people who would want to have that kind of life, but just don't know the vehicle and how, and you know, and just to be part of that wave, you have to know that you are at a much bigger responsibility than you think. Because most of people today, even me, I feel I'm morally responsible for my family, for my life, for myself. But there's so many people out there that will, you know, they'll be want to be part of this wave, and for that reason only, I believe, you know, people should people should take that, the essence of this podcast today, which is to like really believe it, you know, in achieving your best, know it's possible, and never really underestimate what you can do, you know, for the community and people out there, and help them, whether you're, you know, helping a client reach from A to B, or even helping a fellow salesperson, you know, reaching their dreams, and you know, doing their best possible.
There we go. Well, dude, like I said, again, just thank you so much for jumping on with us. I think people watching this will be able to get a ton from it, actionable tips, as well as just, you know, current salespeople that are in corporate and they shouldn't be in corporate. So that being said, everyone that's watching, make sure to leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. Should we bring, I'm planning on bringing Tam back maybe in, you know, 6 months to do a little check-in to see, you know, he's doing great now. Let's see where we are. Cause I think the possibilities are endless, and I think it'll be you know, obviously another good story to tell. So that being said, guys, Aaron here for the Remote Closing Academy podcast. Leave a like if you enjoyed, comment, let us know what you thought. Click the link down in the first link in the description if you want to check out more about remote closing. We'll see you guys in the next one. Talk soon. Peace.